Hey guys, EDDBUD here and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got another episode in the series of long run shoe tests. Today it's the Vaporfly Next %. If you're new to the channel and you haven't done so already, please do hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications of when I launch those new videos. So a slightly different long run route today, 17 miles at roughly 7 minutes 30 seconds per mile. That's about 4 minutes 40 per kilometre. Still a little bit of elevation in there, but the conditions were pretty rough out there, so I didn't really fancy going on those country lanes or roads, especially when I'm on my own out there running, so keeping it nice and safe. Some very interesting happenings in the London Marathon. It got me thinking again about the Vaporfly Next %. I really wanted to take them out again and refresh my view on the shoe. I pulled out the Hakone edition of the Next % and decided to put some more miles into this one in some pretty testing conditions. So topped off another 50-mile week, lots of wind, lots of rain. It doesn't get any more enjoyable than that as a runner. So I set out meaning to push the heart rate up to about 145 beats per minute. In theory, that should be about my standard level during the week if I was doing math training. Taking into account my age and also my situation, not been injured. I'm 41 years old, so it's around about 145 beats per minute. So as I raised the pace up till I got to about that level, I was hitting about 7 minutes 30 per mile. I think I only deviated off that a little bit, around about mile 4 or 5. The upper on the Next % performed incredibly well actually in some very wet conditions. I think they only took on about 20 grams of water. I measured them after the run, which is pretty amazing really. I did end up running through some standing water, and I had to endure pretty much every mile with some sort of rainfall. It was showers most of the time, but the wind was really gusting around and blowing it everywhere. I wasn't really a massive fan of the Vaporweave when I first tried it out, but with a thicker sock and a half size up in this pair of the Vaporfly Next %, I have to say I'm really happy and slightly won over. No blisters after the run, no rubbing of the feet anywhere. The shoe accommodated my ever expanding feet across the long run. Didn't need to adjust the laces over time as I have had to do in some other shoes over the long run distance. The upper did superbly well over the miles, I can report. Midsole wise, I really found myself getting into a groove around about mile 7 or 8. I think always doing a long run or a long race is that psychological barrier to kind of get through, and I made it through that without any real note at all. As you know, I've been testing out loads of different super shoes recently. Those highly cushioned race shoes, just seem to be so many of them this year, and I think I forgot just how wonderful the Next % feels underfoot. I think the magic perhaps is in the exact positioning of the plate. I mean, the weight is still next level, and you forget just how forgiving the ZoomX foam is on your legs. Kept the heart rate round about 144 beats per minute average, so firmly keeping it just between endurance and tempo pace really, which is a bit nuts that my heart rate's that low for that type of speed. Does go to show all those miles recently, the slower miles as well. I've been making sure that I pull the pace back a little bit on those easier daily runs and then pushing myself a little harder on the speed days. It is having an effect. Just approaching 50 miles in these, so I can say they are holding up really well. I mean, those conditions yesterday on the long run were as bad as you're going to get. I mean, I take my hat off to all of those people running London marathons yesterday. It's pretty testing conditions. I had no issues at all though underfoot in the Next %. I think the walls of the ZoomX foam are holding up really well. I mean, there's some creases there. You get creases on them when you take them out of the box. I think sometimes people just get something right first time. I think it's a little bit like the Fender Telecaster. It was just perfect straight out the factory. First design, it was just spot on. Although I guess they experimented with the 4% before this. This one really is something special. Outsole wise, I had a couple of crossings where I had to go over some grass to get back to the pavement. Managed to keep rolling pretty well yesterday. There weren't any traffic crossings or anything like that. I managed to gauge things just right to avoid traffic. It's always a bit of a pain on that route. Sometimes you end up waiting. You've got no choice really. Everybody was staying indoors though because it was just so horrible. It's only maniacs like me that bothered to go out on it. The outsole here was never intended to work on grass, and it especially doesn't work on wet grass. You're just a slipping and a sliding. It's as slippery as it gets on the rubber section of the Next % on wet grass, but on everything else, no major issues at all in terms of grip and traction. I felt the landing was really assured on even the wet and very slippery pavement and road. Major cornering was minimised on this route. There's nothing too tight really that you can't avoid, and it even worked pretty well through the standing water. These held up really well. You can almost feel the water drain out of them actually at certain points. As you've been through some standing water and you just keep striking your foot, you can actually feel the water kind of coming up from the insole and then back out of the shoe. It's quite a strange sensation. I quite enjoyed it though. I think the biggest takeaway from using these in those conditions yesterday is the brilliant consistency of that Vaporweave upper in very wet conditions. Despite my long stance socks being absolutely soaked and sodden, the shoe took on next to no moisture and the feeling underfoot remained light and nimble. It does seem to air dry a hell of a lot quicker than the New Balance Fuel Cell RC Elite upper. That took about 2 days to dry. I think from that aspect the Next Percent still has the edge over the Fuel Cell RC Elite. I think at the moment if you're looking for wet weather performance in a race shoe, don't think you can go wrong still than the Vaporfly Next Percent. After the last few days I think that's very, very prominent in everybody's mind. It just seems to rain and carry on raining. Will it ever end? So certainly an impressive outing on the long run today. Really enjoyed it. Push it a little further next time, up to 20 miles. What are your current favourite long run shoes, guys? Let me know in the comments below. Musical interlude time. I've been back listening to George Thorogood and the Destroyers. I love one of their early albums called Move It On Over. It features that track as the intro, which is just superb. There's a great version of the Bo Diddley track Who Do You Love Next, but for me it's track 5, It Wasn't Me, a Chuck Berry tune which is just a real cracker. Really is one of my favourites. I managed to pick this one up on vinyl for like about £2 or something a couple of years ago. And it just sounds wonderful on vinyl too. Really a big fan of George Thorogood. There's some really good live shows on YouTube if you get the chance to search around and check those out. George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Thanks for watching through to the end of the video, guys. I very much appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, come over and join us on the Strava group, EDDBUD's Runners United. There's a link down in the description if you'd like to come and join us. If you haven't done so already, please do hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications of when we launch those new videos. It helps the channel out a huge amount too if you give this video a thumbs up like and also share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you.